Welcome back to Upside Down Data. We need to talk about how high this alt season could take us. We tend to follow Bitcoin quite closely because where Bitcoin goes, the rest of the market tends to follow. But in the parabolic phases of a bull market, which looks to be where we are heading, it is altcoins where the vast majority of the gains are made. So in some ways, it makes sense to watch altcoins and understand when is alt season happening and how high can alt season take us. We're already seeing the market cap of all crypto assets, excluding Bitcoin, retesting the highs from November 2021. The question would be, have we already seen most of alt season that we're going to see this cycle? Or do we have a lot more room to run? And if we do have more room to run, how much further up might we expect alts to reach going forward? So that's what I want to talk about in this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to leverage some knowledge that we have about how the market cycle tends to go from past cycles. Specifically, there's a lot of information we can gain by looking at Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance is the percent of the total crypto market cap that Bitcoin accounts for. So obviously early on in the existence of the crypto markets, Bitcoin accounted for nearly all of the market cap. But then as altcoins really entered the stage, then you would see them being able to take over larger and larger shares of the market. But the extent to which altcoins do that seems to be pretty similar cycle to cycle. You'll notice that back here in the 2017-2018 alt season that we saw, when altcoins really shot up over that period, and see this massive monstrous run they went on, we got down to a Bitcoin dominance of right around 40%. Roughly right around 40%. And then we had the bear market, altcoins bled against Bitcoin. And then we had the other big alt season that happened here starting in December of 2020, but really going into May of 2021. So just go over here and take a look. That's right here. You see that really December right up here into May of 2021. That was that big explosive alt season where we broke well above the prior high of total 2 and went up and set a massive new all-time high in terms of the altcoin market cap. So what that suggests is that maybe something like that could happen again. Maybe we could see another plunge in Bitcoin dominance down to similar levels. And if that happens, we can get an estimate of how much further we might expect altcoins to run. So first off, imagine that Bitcoin doesn't go any higher than it's already gone right now. If we saw a plunge of Bitcoin dominance back down to these levels, how much more market cap would altcoins gain in that type of an alt season? If we had a similar size alt season, or at least alts go out to be a larger share of the market to the same degree that they have in prior cycles, how much would that be? And then beyond that, if Bitcoin ultimately gets to a higher market cap than it already is right now, what would that mean for this big race down into these levels? How much more market cap could alts add in that situation? So all I want to do is take a simulation approach, where what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, we don't know the exact situation that could happen, but let's imagine different market caps that Bitcoin could get to. So we're going to look at different market caps that Bitcoin could get to. And then we're going to say, all right, so if Bitcoin got to some higher market cap or where it's at right now, and then we saw Bitcoin dominance plunge to levels that we've seen twice now in every single alt season, how much further would alts go? How much further would total 2 rise? That's basically what we're going to look at. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, to assess how much more market cap altcoins could gain in this upcoming alt season, we're going to take a simulation approach. So the way this is going to work is that we don't know the exact nature of what this might look like. So instead of just picking definitive numbers and running with that, we're going to pick plausible ranges of inputs and see what would happen in different scenarios. We're basically going to simulate different alt seasons and see what would happen. So what we're going to do is for Bitcoin, we're going to look at the current all-time high market cap, which is just under 2 trillion. And we're going to say it's going to probably be somewhere between that and 8.8 trillion that Bitcoin's market cap will tap out. So that's halfway to gold's current market cap. I think that's the extreme high of what people would think is plausible in this cycle. So we're going to just run it through that. So somewhere in this range is where we're going to say that the all-time high is going to peak out. So it could be as low as what's already happened, could be as high as that. Then we're also going to look at Bitcoin dominance. Now, what I did do for this simulation or these simulations, I actually excluded the major stable coins from the total crypto market cap because they're not really contributing to the volatile market cap of crypto. Stablecoins are kind of separate, therefore I'm keeping them out. So basically look at Bitcoin dominance from those prior alt season tops. And what I actually did is I took a range here. So instead of it just being the literal number, I basically said, what is the lowest that Bitcoin dominance ever got in the prior alt seasons? It was about 0.42 proportion of the market. And we're just looking at 10% above that and 10% below that. So anywhere between 0.52 and 0.32 is where we think Bitcoin dominance will end up. So again, that would be 52% or 32% of the total crypto market cap when we're at the end of alt season. So what we're going to do is we're going to randomly sample from those different ranges. So basically we'll be taking some market cap from this range. We're going to take some Bitcoin dominance from those tops and then plus or minus 10%. And then we're going to calculate how much further would altcoins have to run, how much more their market cap had to increase to get you to that point. And we're going to record that, and we're just going to do it again and again 5,000 times. So that's going to give us is a range, a universe of different possibilities that could happen, and how much altcoin market cap would increase in each of those different situations. So here's what we get on the top line numbers. So we can see that the average additional market cap that altcoins are predicted to add is 6.32 trillion. So not a small number. 5.88 trillion is the median. And then the 10th percentile is 2 trillion, just above that. So basically 10% of the simulations were below that, 90% were above. And then the 90th percentile is 11.37 trillion. So 10% of the simulations were above that, 90% were below. But I think a more useful way of looking at this is to visualize it. So we look at all the different inputs and see where they put this added altcoin market cap that would be kind of piling in addition to where we are right now. So what we see on the x-axis here is a hypothetical Bitcoin market cap that it tops out at. So that would be anything from what the current all-time high is for the Bitcoin market cap down here, just under 2 trillion, but then all the way up to, as I said, 8.8 trillion over here. The y-axis is the predicted additional altcoin market cap in trillions. And then the color coding of the dots is that Bitcoin dominance number. So you think that Bitcoin is going to be 50% of the total crypto market, that's up here, or higher, that's up here in the red down here, or down here towards the blue, that would be if it's only a smaller proportion all the way down to 0.32. That'd be the lowest thing over here. So what you'll see is that the relation between Bitcoin's market cap and how much we expect the altcoin market to grow is really dependent on what we think the market's going to do in terms of how much of the market's going to be comprised of the Bitcoin market cap versus not. So you'll see if we have a mega alt season, so that would be the blue line here, it's this very steep slope that we end up seeing, where very quickly as Bitcoin would be hitting higher and higher total market caps, altcoins would be expected to add higher and higher basically multiples to their market cap as well, higher and higher amounts in the trillions. And I think it's also interesting to just look at, even if we just stopped here with Bitcoin, it just kind of hung out at this current market cap, though we had an alt season that was maybe kind of on the average, we'd still expect 1.5 trillion roughly more market cap in altcoins, which suggests that they're not nearly at their top yet for a normal alt season. If you think we have kind of a lackluster alt season, we don't even get anywhere close to that. In fact, Bitcoin remains above 50%. We'd still expect to add about 500 billion, which would still suggest additional room for alts to run in this environment. And then, of course, if we go all the way down here, we'd expect almost 3 trillion to be added if we had a mega alt season that made Bitcoin be a much smaller part of the market, smaller than it's ever been before. And then, of course, as you just go out as at higher and higher Bitcoin market caps, you just expect more and more alt market cap to be added. So really, I think this is a useful depiction here, useful visualization, because you can test your own theories. If you think that Bitcoin is done, then you can just look in here and say, okay, where do I think the market is going to then kind of expand relative to Bitcoin? And you just pick your number and see how much more room you think there is. Think that Bitcoin has more room to run from here in terms of its market cap. You just go ahead and look and see where you'd expect altcoins to end up in these different Bitcoin dominance scenarios. So you can really go ahead and test different possibilities. But what it does suggest is that at the very least, there's more room for alts to run, and there could be a monstrous amount of more room for alts to run in a full-on alt season, especially if Bitcoin is not done yet. Let's say Bitcoin goes and rallies to 200K in a much larger market cap. You would expect altcoins to rally higher, especially if you think that we might get to a point where we actually see altcoins taking up a larger part of the market. Maybe, for example, with the new crypto-friendly administration coming in and the more crypto-friendly SEC coming in, altcoins might actually have more headway, more room to run than they normally would. So I'll leave that up to you to make those exact decisions. Again, from these ranges that I picked here, we do have these top line numbers that we can look at. So we can see here is that if we did get that mean scenario that we're talking about before, we look something like this, about a 444% move to the upside from where we are currently right now in terms of total two. And here I've taken out USDC and USDT, the two largest stable coins. And so I think what this tells us is that there's a lot of opportunity remaining for altcoins. Even if Bitcoin didn't get to any higher market cap right now, and even if we had a pretty lackluster alt season, we'd still expect alts to run further from here. But then if Bitcoin does go on to set new highs, higher market caps, and then we do see a normal alt season, we have quite a bit of room to work with. And so I think that's where, again, this visualization that I was talking about before is going to be very helpful guide, because as we see Bitcoin potentially continue to lead the way, continue to set new all-time highs, it then gives us a very clear benchmark of how high we might expect altcoins to run, or what room they have to run given different sizes of alt season that we might see. And that's why I think this is a really powerful analysis, because it really tells us that alts are not done yet. As much as altcoins have already run, as much as XRP has ripped, as much as ADA has ripped, as much as HBAR has ripped, and some other ones, there's still more room in the tank. We really haven't seen anything yet, and 2025 could get very interesting. So obviously this is not financial advice. You should make of these data as you will, but that's what I'm thinking about when I think about how much more room alts have to work with. All right, if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us over on X. A lot of updates from models and more over there. And you can go to our website, claritydigital.io, to see live data for models and more.